Trauma-Informed Care in Nursing Homes video series. Video 4, Safety. Welcome to our Trauma-Informed Care video series for nursing home staff. Today we will be talking about safety. One of the most essential principles in trauma-informed care has to do with safety. This includes both physical and emotional safety. One of the reasons why safety is so important is that it can very quickly trigger someone's fight or flight response. Our brain prioritizes survival, and we are constantly assessing threat and danger in our environment, even if we're not consciously aware of this. As we discussed in an earlier video about the neurobiology of trauma, we know that in the presence of threat, real or imagined, our brain will zero in on the danger, narrow our focus, and prioritize brain processes that help with survival. While this can be beneficial in some ways, it also creates challenges with other brain processes, such as attention, learning, and memory. So how can we ensure our environment feels safe and doesn't activate a threat response? If you watched our video on neurobiology, you'll remember that the information our brain takes in to process the situation is based on our senses. When assessing safety, this can be a good place to start. For instance, what are the sights, sounds, smells, and so on that someone is experiencing in their environment? Let's start with our sense of sight. When you think about the physical space and your sense of sight, think about what people are looking at. What do they see? Is the environment comfortable and homey, which conveys a sense of safety, or does it appear stark and institutional? Furniture, wall color, artwork, floor coverings can all be used to enhance a sense of safety. Softer colors can be calming and create a homier feel, so we can think about the wall colors we use and the artwork that we choose in a trauma-informed way. Do we have things like plants to soften the space? Lighting is also an important consideration. Softer lights convey warmth and comfort, where brighter fluorescent type lighting can seem more institutional. Is it possible to have natural light or outdoor spaces where people can get sunlight? Adequate lighting also enhances a sense of safety because residents are able to clearly see potential threats. How is the space laid out? This is an interesting consideration because often staff members don't have much choice with regard to the floor plan. However, there are some things to think about that can enhance people's sense of safety. Open spaces can create safety because people can see who and what is in the room. There are no surprises. However, open spaces can also make some people feel less safe because they decrease someone's sense of privacy or don't allow them to feel like they can hide or shelter from potential threats. Perhaps there are ways to create a sense of privacy with plants and furniture while also favoring a more open floor plan. Are the hallways long and institutional? Are there ways to make these spaces more similar to home environments? Another way to enhance safety is to consider signage. If spaces are well marked with signs, this can alleviate some fear that people might experience. The key is to reduce both the unknowns and the negative associations that someone might have in your space. For trauma survivors, unknowns or surprises can be quite triggering. People's past experiences can impact how they perceive their current environment and can have a long-lasting triggering effect. For example, negative associations with, say, hospitals or institutions will impact how they respond in a nursing home if there's a perceived similarity. When you think about what people hear, you have the same goal: to reduce or eliminate the sounds that people may interpret as threatening. The same considerations that we just talked about with sight are relevant for sound. Sounds that are unknown, startling, or negatively associated with a trauma memory can potentially activate someone's fight or flight system. Nursing homes can be noisy places, and those noises, individually and collectively, can reactivate trauma survivors. Call lights, alarms, raised voices, and equipment can all contribute to the din that can make someone feel less safe. Even without trauma activation, there's also the possibility of overstimulating someone with noise. It might make sense to make a concerted effort to require indoor voices and quiet common spaces. During shift changes or family visits, noise can also be an issue. We just need to remember that overstimulation can be activating. When we think about smell, we can also inadvertently create an institutional feeling or a sense of home. Are the cleaning products creating an institutional feel? Is there a negative association between those smells and people's memories of hospitals or institutions? What about food? Does it smell appetizing and comforting, which can translate to safe, believe it or not? Or is it the opposite? Is it strong, foul, or unappealing? Consider the opposite. What memories do smells like chocolate chip cookies or apple pie baking trigger for you? The memories they trigger are likely memories associated with safety. When assessing your environment, consider both how eliminating certain smells and adding others can enhance safety. While we may not often think about taste as an environmental factor, and certainly not about the relationship of taste to safety, it's important to mention, but I'll be brief. Familiar, appealing foods can contribute to a sense of overall well-being and of being cared for, which can enhance safety. While not every family and home situation was safe, many people associate meals with being taken care of or being loved. Experiences such as warm chicken soup when ill, or holiday meals shared with others, food, and the experience of eating can be a place to enhance safety. That's why it's important to remember. Thinking about trust is an essential part of safety and long-term care. Interpersonal traumatic experiences often involve touching without permission, and nursing home care requires touch. Addressing resident safety around touch can also reduce challenging behaviors around care, which in turn can make staff safer. While this video is not intended to be a training on touch, consider the following practices to increase safety. Before you touch a resident, briefly explain the overall procedure in simple language. Again, before you start. Avoid medical jargon. As you proceed, explain each step before you do it and tell the resident why you're doing it in simple everyday language. This is particularly important for invasive or uncomfortable procedures. Listen and watch for responses to touch. With residents who cannot tell you, look for clues of discomfort. Welcome the residents' questions and answer them in simple everyday language. Take more time with residents who need more time. We just talked about how the environment contributes to someone's sense of physical safety. We also know that in a nursing home environment, physical safety can also pertain to fall risk and someone's risk of getting hurt. So of course, as you consider these aspects of physical safety, think about the resident's risk of injury and what creates safety. Do residents have opportunities to move around unsupervised? Are there ways to encourage natural movement throughout the day? What considerations might we make with regard to furniture, equipment, and supervision? Emotional safety is another important consideration when creating a trauma-informed setting. Trust and transparency are offered as distinct principles of a trauma-informed approach, but you can imagine how these concepts are important in creating a sense of safety for people. For example, We are being transparent with residents when we tell them what to expect, which reduces the likelihood that they will be surprised. Remember that the unknown and surprises can be quite triggering. Are we being clear and direct in our communication? Do the residents trust that someone will help them if they need it? How do you create an environment where residents believe that someone will help them when they need it? Unfulfilled needs make people feel emotionally unsafe and may lead to activation, especially when care is delayed. Anticipate needs and create person-centered care plans that prioritize what is most important to individual residents. Ensure that basic physiological needs are met as promptly as possible. And remember that offering choice is a good way to create a sense of safety. It can be challenging when staff are short on time or when the facility is understaffed. However, this can be an important time to create emotional safety. Focusing on the residents' priorities can build trust and safety, even though at times this can seem difficult. Look for tips on staff support in our video about staff care. So in conclusion, while safety is only one of the trauma-informed care principles, it is the one that encompasses important aspects of all of the others.